Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
$5,000, $80,000, and I'm driving an Infinity now. I mean, I got the whole single life going. And I couldn't believe, because growing up in Bradford, we had food stamps for the longest time, me and my mom. And whenever, I don't know how, depending on how many other kids were in the house at the time, like I thought that was just normal. You would just get a booklet, you'd bring it to the store, you'd take your little coupon, you pay, that was the money you used, So for me to be making 60, 70, 80 grand, I bought my first home in 1994 for 88 grand. My mom said, "Oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing spending $88,000? This was 1994. I'm like, "Mom, I mean, I'm doing pretty good." And so that was it, man. So I stayed in Buffalo, and then I was in outside sales at the time. And then I got audited by the IRS in the spring of 1996. And I was like, "Oh, this doesn't look like a good letter." So I go to my accountant's office, and there was this beautiful blonde working as a receptionist, and who is now my wife.
Oh.
And I said, "Hey, I'm Sam Crowley." She goes, "Okay, have a seat." Like I said, as soon as I Sam Crowley, like everything would stop, and she'd be like, "Oh, wow. So what do you do?"
Right.
So anyway, I go into my account. I go, "Who's the blonde out there?" He goes, "Oh, that's Angela. She's got a boyfriend." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Focus on the audit, buddy. Focus on the audit. You're getting audited by the IRS." So I left, and I went back to my office, and I called back, and Angela answered the phone. I said, "Hey, it's Sam Crowley." She goes, "Oh, hold on a second. I'll put you through." To be like, "Oh, yeah, hold on a second. Would you like to go to the movies with me this weekend?" And I didn't know she had just broken up with her boyfriend. So she goes, "Yeah, sure." So we went on our first date, June 2nd, 1996. We saw the first Mission Impossible movie in Niagara Falls, because we lived right. It wasn't like on some romantic vacation. Niagara Falls was 10 miles from my house. Right. So we went there for dinner, went to a movie, got engaged 90 days later, and we've been married for 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And from the sounds of everything I'm hearing in the book, this woman's a saint.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, just amazing. Salt 100%. Of the earth, man. 100%. You did well.
Yeah, I know. I outkicked my coverage in a big way.
Exactly right. It's a good thing you made that call, buddy. Good thing.
Yeah.
Most people, if they had heard that she had a boyfriend, they'd have just moved on, right?
Yeah, that normally wasn't my makeup though. Like I wasn't that guy. I wasn't a church skirt chaser at the bar, I'm just kind of kept to myself, but there was just something about her. I thought, man, she's something special there, So that's why I made the call. I figured worst she can do is say no, and I look like an idiot, but she said, "Yeah, let's go on a date." And she's the mother of our 4 children and been my wife for 25 years, and absolute saint. Absolute.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. So you get married.
Yep.
Right. And what happens then?
Well, prior to getting married, we were living in Buffalo. We met each other in 96. And then in 97, I got relocated after my mom died. There was really my mom died July 7th of 97. And then there was really no reason to kind of stick around the Northeast if there was an opportunity. So the company came and said, "We're opening up an office in Cincinnati. We need some real good salesmen. Like it's going to be tough, dude. Like this is like from the ground up type stuff. It ain't sexy, but we'll pay you. And we'll relocate you to Cincinnati." I'm like, sounds fun,
And this is Yellow Pages still.
Yep, still with the Yellow Pages. So we got the contract to sell the Cincinnati Bell Yellow Pages, which is about $100 million contract of all the advertising in the area. So we're right now, you could go 30 miles and be in Indiana. You can go 10 miles and be in Kentucky. So it's the tri-state area, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. And so we relocated here in pretty much October, November of 97. And again, just raised my hand, said, "I'll do it." No idea what I was getting myself into, but I'll do it. And when we relocated here, made all new friends because everybody else had to be relocated from around the country. Met one of my best friends, Dave Hackinson, and his wife is the godmother of our children. His wife and my wife are always been best friends for the past 25, 26 years. We met them when we moved here. And then I was in outside sales for, a couple more years. Now I'm making over 100 grand, and I'm thinking, man, this is such rare air. I can't even describe to you what it's like to see at the end of the year on a W-2, 6 figures when you grew up with zero.
Not a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
sure.
so wild. I remember bringing my W-2 to my account. I just stared at that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 104,000 or something. Like, my gosh, this is incredible. Mm-hmm. Then I realized how much I'm paying in taxes. That was another thing I saw, but I saved that one for another.
That woke you up, didn't it?
Yeah. I was like, hey, hold on a second. I only
this is terrible.
Yeah. But so, and then I went into management. I'd done very well in sales, and they were recruiting me to be a manager because we just never got good sales reps because nobody wanted to go into management. Sales is the best part-time job there is. Once you get good at it, work a few hours a day, crush it, bring in 8 to 10 grand a month, go play golf, hang out, whatever, going into management. Now you got to be in the office every day. You're working 60, 70 hours. You're not getting paid what you're worth. You're just getting paid what the position's worth. But I thought that, maybe I can lead people. Let me get out of sales. And yeah, I did take a haircut, no doubt about it, on the pay, but I kind of liked being, in that leadership role to help mold younger sales reps because I'd been in the game now for 10 years or so. And I felt like I had something to give back. And I was always kind of a rah-rah guy. Like, I didn't really care about the technique. I just cared about the attitude. It's the only thing I cared about, because you can always teach somebody the how, but if they have a bad attitude, it's a deal crusher,
It's all about mindset. Yeah.
And we'd have sales reps that had been with us for a long time that had a bad attitude. And you could just tell when the new ones came back from training. We sent them to training for 3 weeks and then brought them onto the force. And they hang around the water cooler with the malcontents and the negative people. And then within a few months, you could see that seeping into the new reps where they just came in so bright-eyed and eager to do anything. And now they're kind of talking a little bit negative. So I always, I think one of my strengths was being like a situational leader, managing. I always said we'd treat everybody fairly, but not equally. Okay. Because nobody's equal, but everybody gets treated fairly based on your strength and how much value that you bring, And I think people respected that. And then, within 3 years, I had 4 promotions. And next thing you know, I'm running the entire $100 million division in the company, from where I started making $9,900 a year in telephone sales. Now I've got the corner office. I'm running the show. And here's the wild thing. I was less happy there than I was making $9,900 a year.
Oh, yeah. By far. Yeah.
Yeah. So
when do you come home and Maddie sits up in bed? When does that happen? Is that right about this time?
Yeah, right around November 2004. It was a Monday, and I was just Mondays are a grind in the corporate game, man, because everything piles up over the weekend. All the drama, all the emails, everything, all the fires don't get put out, from Friday at 5 till Monday at 8. And so I used to sit around with a pit in my stomach Sunday afternoons. I'd watch a Bengals game or a Bills game. So I'm a big Bills fan, being from the Buffalo area, or watch our local Bengals here. And I just had a pit in my stomach thinking about what was waiting for me on Monday, because I couldn't even enjoy Sunday from after like 3 o'clock, And so that Monday, it was a cold November day here. And, I told my wife I'd be home. She called, hey, I'm making chicken fajitas. What time will you be home? Because she needed to know. I just want to make sure dinner's ready. Like, I got Madeline is 3. Laura was just born. So she's 3 months old. And my wife's juggling 2 kids, trying to make sure her husband has a warm dinner. I go, I'll be home by 6. She goes, okay, you say that a lot. I'll be home by 6. So I hung up the phone, and wouldn't you know, sales reps come in the office, other people come in, fire put out here, fire there. It's 7 o'clock. Finally get out of the office. I drive up I-71. It's cold. It's dark. I get home, ties down to halfway down my chest. I walk in the door. My wife's like, the fajitas are like mud on the skillet. Sorry. I go, that's my fault. I go, where's Madeline? She goes, I put her up to bed. I go, well, can I say goodnight to her? She goes, and Laura was such an infant. She just slept all the time anyway. So I walked up to Madeline's room, and she sat up, and I said, hey, honey, how was preschool today? She says, good. And she said, Daddy, is tomorrow Saturday? I said, no, tomorrow's Tuesday. I go, why do you ask? She said, because it's the only day I get a chance to see you. And I said, that, I'll tell you what, Mike, I've had a lot of things said to me in my life, most of which don't cut very deep. That cut deep. And you got to remember, I come from father walking out when I was 3 months old. Didn't meet the guy really. He was around maybe when I was 4 or 5 here and there. I don't remember it really. So to not be present in your child's life, but think you're doing everything right with the nice salary and the really great title, and all the responsibility. I was failing miserably at being the one thing I promised that I would be when I got the opportunity, and that was to be a father,
Yeah.
So I said, Madeline, someday soon, every day will be Saturday. So I didn't even eat the fajitas. I went and laid in my bed with my suit on still and just stared at the ceiling. And I remember just looking up saying, what in the hell am I going to do? I'm miserable. I hate my job. I don't hate the people I work with, but I don't want to be around these types of people. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, sure.
I don't dislike them for who they are. I dislike the environment. So prior to that, I had started looking at trying to be an entrepreneur, and there was a classified ad to buy a Quiznos locally, Quiznos sub franchise. So
I love Quiznos, by the way. It's one of my favorite sandwich shops.
Yeah, used to be mine too. And I'll tell you why it's not. So I was in so much pain. I got to get out of the rat race. I got to get out. So I bought this Quiznos, and in January 2005, I'm making my big plan here. I'm going to buy the Quiznos, buy about 4 or 5 of them, and be this millionaire sub franchise owner. Well, in May of 2005, I was on the phone with my VP, who I was reporting to at the time, and he was talking, and he wanted to give me what's called the gift of feedback, which in corporate means, a lot of things. So I wasn't interested. And I said, you know what? I quit, man. He goes, what? I said, I quit. He goes, what do you mean you quit? You're running the largest division in the company. You can't. I go, look, man, my daughter wants every day to be Saturday. I'm going to give it a go. Yeah. So he goes, okay. And here's another lesson. Everybody's replaceable, Mike. Yeah. As soon as you say those words, you just get the boxes out the door you go, bring in your replacement, forget who you are, Yeah. So the problem was the Quiznos was hemorrhaging money even before I went full-time into it. And I ended up filing bankruptcy that year because I lost, all my money trying to keep that afloat and pay health insurance and have 3 kids. Well, here's the other thing is that I quit May 6, 2005, which was about five months into this Quiznos. In August, it was becoming painfully obvious that I wasn't going to be able to make a living at this, at least not with this one. And I'm losing so much money, I could never get financing to buy another one. So I called my boss back 90 days after I just told him I'm going to make every day. Say, hey, you guys looking for any sales reps? He goes, yeah, we're always looking to hire good people. Why? I said, because I'm looking. He goes, what do you mean you're looking? What happened to this every day? I go, yeah, we'll talk about that later. I go, I need health insurance. My wife's 8 months pregnant. I got no money and I missed sales. And I did. I missed it, because I used to love sales. I didn't love management, but I love sales. He goes, oh boy, this is going to have some conversations at every level. We've never had a division manager quit and come back as a sales rep. Like that's embarrassing to the company that you wouldn't want to be the leader of the division. You'd rather sit in a cubicle,
History thing. Yeah.
So long story short, I came back. I had to get back up in front of everybody because I gave this rousing speech and people were sobbing. I'm sure others were happy, that I was leaving. But nonetheless, I had to come back in August of that same year, 90 days later, and say, I'm back, and just want to be like every one of you. But that's impossible. I used to be everybody's boss, and now I'm sitting in a cubicle. And the people that used to report to me, now I'm reporting to them. It was just awkward for them, not me. So I met with a bankruptcy. So I met with a bankruptcy attorney about a couple of weeks after I was back on the job. And I said, here's my situation. He said, you're screwed. And I said, I know. And he said, all right, the bankruptcy laws are changing on October 11th of this year. It can be a hell of a lot more difficult to file. So don't go Chapter 7. You don't need to pay whatever you can pay back, work out an agreement with your creditors and the government. You meet with a trustee, you pay a percentage back, and your credit's only a disaster for 7 years. I'm like, okay. So I filed Chapter 13 on October 11th. My daughter Paige was born October 5th, 6 days prior to that. And it was the most humbling, embarrassing, didn't sleep, lost so much weight type of season of my life that I'm happy I went. And I know a lot of people say this. If I didn't go through that, you and I wouldn't be talking. That's number one. Okay. Yeah. But I don't ever want to go through that feeling again. It was just meeting with the trustee and have her say, I would never, if I were you, I would not recommend ever buying another business, Mr. Crowley. You obviously don't know how to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then have creditors staring through you to try to get every cent they can from you and looking at every financial. I mean, you're just naked. Here's all my bank statements, all my bill, like just do a forensic CSI on me. And I mean, it was it was nasty, man. I never want to be in that setting again. But, I got through it. And, I started in the summer of that year. We're now in the summer of 2006. I had such a record month in the month of June. Now, I had only been back with the company 8 months, and I made 40 grand in 1 month, which is, they had to change the compensation plan because of it. They're like, we can't pay you this much. This is not sustainable. I'm like, but I'm selling a lot. They go, yeah, but we have a compensation model and this isn't, you're blowing through it. So I'm like, okay. So I started to put the plan together to leave again because I didn't like that conversation. And I had a couple bucks in the bank now. I was feeling good. I was still just a few months removed from my bankruptcy. But as soon as my last meeting with the trustee happened, she goes, Mr. Crowley, let me give you some advice. Just stick in a job. Don't do anything. I'm like, okay, thanks. After that bankruptcy meeting, I went over to a coffee shop and met a web designer to design my new website. And prior to that, I had tried to get the domain name everydayissaturday.com. So I looked it up on the internet. And there's this guy, John Mix, who owned it. And back then you could see the people that owned it. Now everything's pretty much private. But back then I typed in who is, and I typed in the who is search for everydayissaturday.com. It came up, John Mix, Oregon. Here's his phone number. So I called him. I was on the sales floor one day, and I got his answering machine. And I said, hey, John, my name's Sam Crowley. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. My daughter wants every day to be Saturday. I'd love to get the domain. Let me know if there's something we can work out. And then went beep, and it kind of cut me off, but I was able to give my phone number. So the next day my phone rings. I'm walking around the sales floor and it's this guy, John Mix. And I go, John Mix? Oh my God. John, did you get my message about my daughter wanting every day to be Saturday? He goes, yeah, I got it, kid. I got it. He said, I wish I would have had that kind of courage to do it. He goes, I bought the domain name back in 2000. I was going to post some photo albums of me fishing and spending time in retirement. But you got something, kid. You got something. So I'm going to give you that domain name. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. So I sent him $100 on PayPal because I didn't have a credit card. I got them all taken away. So I said, John, just let me give you $100. He goes, that's fine. So he transferred the domain to me. And I met this guy at a coffee shop after my meeting with the bankruptcy trustee to build out everydayissaturday.com. That was my first website. And in July of 2006, it went live. And I was podcasting now. I just had started this thing called podcasting a little bit prior to that. And I was creating these audios. This was before the iPhone ever came out or anything like that. And so I was podcasting, I had a website, everything was branded under Every Day is Saturday. I still had this job. And then in April in 2007, it just became the immovable object and the irresistible force. My boss is like, you got to spend more time in the office. I'm like, I ain't spending time in the office. Like, you go, and I quit. And then I just definitely burned the bridge. It was burnt,
No going back.
And so I created a YouTube account. Shot my first video in April of 2007, kept podcasting, and wasn't as scared as I was 2 years prior to that when, what hit the fan pretty bad, but it was still no money. I didn't have anybody handing me money, but there was something different about going for my own dream versus somebody else's with Quiznos. Quiznos, I was going to make them rich, pay them royalties, wear their visor, wear their logo. This was me. This was my brand and my message. And I was just crazy passionate about it. And then a year later, somebody heard my podcast and I got a phone call and they said, hey, Sam, we were wondering if you were available to speak at our event. I know it's short notice. This was towards the end of May into June of 2008 to come to Hawaii. So I called him right back and I said, hey, it's Sam Crowley. Oh my God. Yeah. We just listened to your podcast. Now, Mike, this is amazing because nobody knew what podcasts were back in 2007, really, 2008. And she said, the owners listened and they absolutely love your message. Would you be able to speak in Hawaii the first week of July? And I said, absolutely. I'll check my calendar, but I got nothing going between now and Christmas. I'm pretty positive of that. So let's do it. And she said, what's your speaking fee? And I said, what's your budget? And she said, well, it's $25,000, but we're flexible. I said, hey, no. We're good. 25 grand. So they flew me to Hawaii, and it was me and a gentleman from The Secret named Lee Brower. Mm-hmm. Back in 2007, The Secret was everything. It was the number one. So, everybody was talking about law of attraction, Secret. Everybody was on Oprah. So it was that guy, Lee Brower, great guy, by the way, and me. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing in Hawaii with this guy? I don't even deserve to be here. And I remember I arrived in Hawaii. I'd never been to Hawaii in my life. Didn't know if I needed a passport to get there. I had no idea where the hell Hawaii was. And I get there, and the first day, I don't even have a presentation ready. I'm speaking in a couple of days, and it was $8,000 to go to this event. So there was a.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.